Hi, hello, good morning everyone. I'm Dr. Harika Kishore. On behalf of Vista's Learning, I'm here as your biology educator. vlearning, it's an online education platform which works with an ideology of providing quality education for all. Visit our website www.v-learning.in where you're going to get an access for all the live classes, recorded sessions, study materials, concept videos. Moreover, you're going to get this lecture notes in the form of PDFs. Get your acquaintance with all the channels available and make sure to subscribe to the channel Vista's Learning Class 11 and 12. If you find this session useful and interesting, make sure to click on the like and share this session with your friends. And also make sure to click on the bell icon so that you are going to get all the upcoming video notifications. Saying that, let's begin today's session. In today's session, we're going to discuss about the last topic that comes under the chapter Biodiversity and Conservation, which comes under the unit Ecology. Let's start. So in last session, we have been discussing about the loss of biodiversity. So as the biodiversity, we are losing it at a very faster rates and at alarming rates. We have to conserve it. And we have been discussing about what are all the services that we are getting from our ecosystem, that we call it as an ecological services, right? Same way, let's in this class focus on why should we conserve biodiversity. So, to make you understand why here, there are reasons. And these reasons may be of obvious type, very clear to understand, and they are of non-obvious type. So, let's understand about why should we conserve biodiversity, right? There are many reasons to explain you why should we conserve biodiversity. And here, of these reasons, some are very obvious, some are very clear that we are getting all the services from our ecosystem in the form of ecological services. And some other are not so obvious. We have to understand the inner meaning of that reasons. And though they are obvious, they were very clear to understand, easy to understand reasons, though they are little difficult to understand the reasons, whatever the thing, but all the reasons are very, very important, are very, very vital. And they are equally important. And these reasons are grouped into three categories. What are they? Let's discuss. Three categories. They are narrowly utilitarian, broadly utilitarian, and ethical reasons. Let's discuss one after one, right? Now, so here, the first reason what we mentioned is narrowly utilitarian argument. This argument is for conserving biodiversity and it is of obvious type. That is very, very clear to understand. Here, the humans, mankind derives endless, countless direct benefits, direct economic benefits by ecosystem. That is what we call it as an ecological services, which is of really very, very economically benefited. Take for example, it's a very simple thing to understand. From the nature, we are getting food. From the nature, we are getting shelter. From the nature, we are getting fiber in the form of cotton, say it like silk. Different types of textiles we are getting. And even the construction material we are getting from the nature. That, just like example, is sand. The formation of the sand is a very, very time-taking process, time-consuming process, that what we call it as an soil withering. Soil withering is a formation of soil that takes place from the rocks. All these services, ecosystem, nature is providing us completely free of cost. That is what, in the previous sessions, to make you understand how valuable it is. That is a human nature where we don't give much value if these things are coming completely on free. If we are paying it, then we'll obviously value it. That is what we already have discussed about Robert Constanza who have given a price tax for all this ecological services what we are getting at completely free of cost. This attempt he made to make us realize how valuable ecological services we are getting from our nature. So here, these are the list of, again, the services that we are getting from our Mother Earth, that is, we can say nature, ecosystem. So here, we are getting food, natural food in the form of vegetables, fruits, dry fruits, right, pulses, cereals, and also we are getting firewoods, we are cutting down the forests, we are cutting out the trees that are present in the forest, that woods are nothing but forests, right? And even in the process of urbanization, constructions, we are constructing by taking a place that are previously forest lands, right? And even for the commercializations or for converting into agricultural lands, or even we are converting the forest into grasslands, thereby we are getting the grazing cattle, beef, right? So this is all the things that we have already discussed under the topic habitat loss and fragmentation, where these are important reasons for the loss of the biodiversity. In the previous class itself, we have discussed about the loss of biodiversity, and we have seen 4 important reasons, right? 4 important categories, wherein which the first reason for the loss of the biodiversity is habitat loss and fragmentation. Second one is overexploitation, and third one is the alien species or the foreign species invasions. And finally, we have discussed about the co-extinctions. So these are all the major reasons for the loss of the biodiversity. And these are the ecological services what we are getting from our ecosystem. And also we are getting fibers. Even we are getting the construction material. Just we discussed about the sand formation that happens from the rocks, and industrial products, very commercially valued products. There comes like lubricants, tannins, perfumes, resins, dyes. This is all we are getting from the nature, right? By converting all this into commercially valuable products, we are getting benefit out of it, and even we are getting the products of medicinal importance. There are so many medicinally valued plant species that are present in our biosphere, where biodiversity is providing us a very important Ayurvedic medically valued plants, right? Now, so moving on, just now we mentioned about the medicinal value plants, right? More than 25% of drugs, nothing but medicines here. Medicines, what we are using at present, medicines, right? More than 25% of all the medicines what we are currently using sold in our market worldwide are derived from plants. That means medicinally important plants. And 25 species of plants contributes to the traditional medicines like Ayurveda, traditional medicines used by native people around the world. So this is importance we can understand. This is the list of all the services what we are getting from the nature, completely of cost. And even nobody knows how many more medically useful plants. These are all the list of the plants what we have already described, what we have already come across with. We have identified, we have named it, we have described it, and we know which part of that particular plant, for example, opium, which is which we got from the poppy seeds, right? So from here, we got that composition, the drug, what we call it as an opium, and it can be useful as a sedative, which is used for the patients, used to treat the patients with anxiety, more of anxiety, and even the patients who are recovering from major surgeries. See, here, these are all the uses that we already have discovered, but there are so many species yet to be discovered. that are present in a biodiversity. That is what here we are mentioning. Many more medicinally useful plants that are in tropical rainforests waiting to be explored. This is all the story about the plants which has been already explored, already understood, already studied about. But there are so many species that do exist on this biosphere and in the biodiversity what we have, that has to be yet to be discovered, yet to be explored. And with increasing resources put into bioprospecting. Bioprospecting is otherwise called as biodiversity prospecting. Here we are searching for the medicinally value or commercially important products that can we get from a wide variety of the plants species as well as wide variety of the animal species. Here what we are doing, we are exploring, we are searching at its molecular level, genetic level, and even species level of all the plants and the animals available. Why we are searching this plant diversity, why we are searching this animal diversity? Because we need to understand what are the products of economic importance that are present in the diversity of plants and animals. For that, we are using this bioprospecting. So by this, we are exploring at its molecular level, that is macromolecular level, and at its genetic level, there's genes, like genus and even species level. So the studies have been done at various levels, of starting from molecular level, genetic level, and species level, to understand the diversity, to understand the plants and the animals that are present in the diversified ecosystem. Thereby, we need to produce some commercially important products. That means human is searching to identify whatever the economically important products are present in the diversity of plants and animals at its molecular level, genetic level, and species level. And here, nation endowed with rich biodiversity can expect to reap numerous benefits to get. Here, definitely by all these things, we came to understand how the ecosystem is providing us the services in such a way that we are getting food, we are getting shelter, in the form of like constructing materials, and moreover we are taking over the lands for the urbanization too. And also we are getting the fibers, we are getting the medicines, we are getting the fertile soil, right? While we are discussing about the functions of the ecosystem, we have mentioned about the nutrient cycling, that thereby it enriches the availability of the nutrients, and thereby it increases the fertility of the soil. If the fertile soils are made available, then the producers will grow, and based on this producers, we can get more biomass that are transferred from the producers to the next level of the ecosystem, that is next trophic level of the ecosystem, that are consumers, right? Now, so here, this is all about narrowly utilitarian. Let's move forward to broadly utilitarian. Arguments says that biodiversity plays a major role in many ecosystem services, that means ecological services just now we are mentioning, right? That nature provides. Nature is providing more and more ecological services, ecosystem services, right? And here, the fast dwelling Amazon forest, that means diminishing. The Amazon forest, as we already mentioned, that Amazon rainforests are diminishing at a very faster alarming rate. And even it is called as the lungs of the forest because it is providing 20% of the oxygen, right? Here, it is estimated to produce, through the photosynthesis, 20% of the total oxygen that is present in the Earth's atmosphere. So that is what we are considering Amazon rainforest lungs of the planet. 20% of total oxygen available to the Earth's atmosphere is coming from our Amazon forest. But what is happening to the Amazon forest right now? It is fastly diminishing. It is undergoing fast dwelling nowadays. So that is our responsibility to decrease at least the rate. We can't stop it definitely. At least we can decrease the rates at which it is going to be diminished, right? Now, as we just now mentioned about, there is a long list, endless, countless list, we can say, of the ecological services that what we are getting from our ecology, that means ecosystem, right? Now, ecosystem services, this is, we already discussed while we are discussing about the ecosystem. Here, the products of ecosystem processes are named as ecosystem services, ecological services. For example, healthy forest ecosystem provides all this. It will purify the earth. That means it will purify the air, it will purify the water which is available for drinking, which is available for breathing, right? Purified air. If it is been polluted, which leads to water pollution and air pollution and whatnot, it leads to diseased conditions. So the health of the mankind, then it is protected by a healthy ecosystem. Thereby, it is our responsibility to maintain the health of our ecosystem, right? So here, not only it purifies the air, not only it purifies the water, it also mitigates. That means it prevents drought and floods. That means extreme water availability, rainfall, and very low rainfall conditions. And this is one of the important function of the ecosystem, that is nutrient cycling. Cycle nutrients and generate, produce, increase the fertility of the soil. That means availability of the nutrients in a dissolved form. Thereby, the plants can absorb, they can grow, and they can produce the biomass, which is transferred. That is what we call it as an energy flow. And also, this is the thing, it provides the habitat for the wildlife. If the ecosystem is not healthy, then there is a condition that is called as habitat loss, which shows a major effect to the wildlife, and it maintains the biodiversity. It also pollinates the crops. Thereby we are getting fruits, and from them seeds again germinate to produce plants. Again, depending upon the plants, animals are sustaining their lives. All this is a chain, and all it is interconnected. Provides storage site for carbon. Again, it is providing nutrients for the soil, and the cycling of the nutrients is maintained in such a way that it is going to helpful for the sustainability of the humankind, sustainability of all the biosystem. And also it provides aesthetic, beauty, cultural and spiritual values. These are all the endless list. Even the list goes beyond than this. All these are the services what we are getting from our ecosystem, and it all happens completely free. We are not paying for the air what we are breathing. We are not paying for to see our beautiful flowers. All these are the services that are provided, and to make you realize how value they are, the price tags are also given for these ecological services, right? Now, to make you understand again the importance of the ecological services, here is a question. Can you put an ecological value, economic value on the services by nature? Definitely we are not paying for most of the things what we are getting. We can get some idea by finding out how much your neighborhood hospital is spends on a cylinder of oxygen. If you maintain the healthy atmosphere, we'll get pure air. Availability of the pure air is happening completely of cost. We are not paying anything for that. If the air pollution, for that the complete responsibility is mankind. All the air is getting polluted by the human activities itself. That means we are polluting our air. We are polluting our air, and we are buying an oxygen cylinders by paying, right? This is all happens just because of our activities. Now, just now we mentioned pollinating the crops, right? the pollination of the crops also takes place by the pollinating agents, which are again a part of the ecosystem. So pollination, let's give a thought like if they are not, there are no pollinating agents, that means there are no birds, there are no insects available for pollinating the crops. Then where do we get the fruits? Where do we get the seeds? Where do we get the next generation? Possibly not. So here, pollination, without which plants cannot give us fruits or seeds, is another service of ecosystem that are provided through pollinators. And the pollinators, as we already know, they are animal pollinators, they are insects, they are like biological pollinators and abiotic pollinating agents. So, looking into living, that is biotic pollinators, layer bee, bumblebee, birds, bats. This is a small list. The list goes again endless. So, these biological agents are very, very useful for us to pollinate the flowers. Once the pollination is done, the flowers are going to convert into fruits. Thereby, the fruits, again, we are getting a food. And these are going to convert into seeds, and these seeds are maintaining the next generation of that particular plants. This all happens with the coordination of both the biotic community, that means plant system as well as animal system. And it has to be protected and it has to be maintained in an orderly fashion such that we can reduce the loss of the biodiversity, reduce the loss which is happening to the biodiversity, right? Now, they are other intangible, can't touch it, very, very valued. There are other intangible benefits that we derive from nature, that is aesthetic pleasures. You'll be so feeling so happy if you look at a very beautiful flowers and animals, birds, even a very thick woods. These are all the aesthetic pleasures what we are getting from our nature. Like walking through the thick woods. Thick woods are nothing but forest. Green trees, plantations, right? Watching spring flowers in full bloom. These are all very pleasurable things for our eyes. Stress-free, will be so stress-free. Have a look at this beautiful things that are provided by our nature. Or walking up to a bulbul song in the morning. Can we put a price tags for all these things, what we are enjoying? No, completely no. But that is our responsibility to preserve, to conserve all these things. Moving on to, up to now we have discussed about narrowly utilitarian, broadly utilitarian, and the last reason that is called as ethical. Argument for conserving biodiversity relates to what we owe. We need to pay back. We need to pay back to the plants, to the animals, because they are providing us. We are already enjoying the services what they have been providing to us. But we never have given back. That is what we need to pay. We owe to millions of plants, animals, and even for microbes. Microbes are playing a very, very important thing that as a microbiologist, there is no need for us to explain much about it, because not only harmful bacteria, not only harmful microorganisms, there are useful list of the microbes do present. It starts with the fermenting our batter early in the morning to have our South Indian dishes in the morning. And there are so many microbes which are useful for the decomposition that is happening and to increase the fertility of the soil. These are all the useful microbes. And we are all owed to the microbe species with whom we share this planet. The Earth planet is providing a healthy atmosphere, healthy environment, healthy, safest place, not only for the human. Each and every plant, each and every animal, each and every microbe which is living on this earth is worth of it. They're all worth of it. Not only humans, because we are sharing. We are not only species that are living on the earth. We have to share. That is what we all studied in ecology. Ecology is all about the study of interaction of biotic as well as abiotic among themselves as well as with the other biotic and abiotic factors. Individually, without the support of our plants or the animals or microbes, human can't sustain, definitely. Therefore, we are sharing this planet and we have to share this planet with all the other creatures, no matter whether they are plant systems, whether they are animal system, whether they are microbes. We have to maintain that harmony. Now, so here, philosophically or spiritually speaking, we need to realize that every species, no matter whether it is plant species or animal species or microbes, every species has an important intrinsic value. Intrinsic value, even if it is not be of current, that means presently it may be not useful. The word is like, its importance, it is not visible currently, but it is definitely intrinsically value. Each and every creature, each and every species that are present on this earth are interconnected and they are having their own unique importance. Maybe at present we can't see it in a view of economic value, but each and every species is having its own intrinsic unique importance. We have a moral duty, ethical duty to care for all well-being and pass on our biological legacy to the next generation, to the next future generation, and that too, very, very important, that too in good condition, good order. So here, that is our responsibility to pass on all this biodiversity, that is biological legacy, what we are now enjoying. We have to preserve it, conserve it for the future generation too, that too in good order, good condition, right? Now, so here, this is all about why. Let's understand how. What are the different ways that we can adapt, conserve this biodiversity? How do we conserve biodiversity? When we conserve and protect the whole ecosystem, it's biodiversity at all the levels, no matter it's a molecular level, a genetic level, or a species level, or ecological level, all the levels is protected. We are protecting here the whole ecosystem. For example, the forest ecosystem. And to say you simple, we save the entire forest ecosystem to save a tiger. So here, if you take this is an entire ecosystem. We have a plant system, we have animals, we have different types, different levels of animals which belongs to herbivores, carnivores, like we can say consumers, producers, consumers, different varieties of consumers and different varieties of producers. So here, if you conserve the complete ecosystem, for example, forest ecosystem, we are going to conserve each and every species that are present inside it. That means here, to save the tigers, we are conserving the entire forest. And that comes under in-situ, otherwise called as on-site. This approach is called as in-situ or on-site conservation. So in-situ is otherwise called as on-site conservation, where we are conserving entire ecosystem to preserve, conserve, to protect at all the levels, to protect the biodiversity at all the levels. We are protecting the entire ecosystem, and this type of the approaches, what we call it as an in-situ conservation, otherwise called as on-site conservation, right? Now, however, when there are situations where an animal or the plant is endangered or threatened, means it is very close to the margin of extinction, very close to extinction. Soon it is going to be extinct. Very close to extinction. Okay, extinction. Now, endangered or threatened species or the organisms facing a very high risk of extinctions, very close to extinctions. in the wild, that means forest, in the near future. In a coming up near future, those organisms which are at a very high risk of being extincted are going to be extincted. That we call it as an endangered species or threatened species, and needs urgent, very immediate measure to save it from extinction. See, if they are the species which are going to soon going to extinct, and for that species a special care is needed, where we are taking that species out of the natural habitat and provide the special settings, special conditions which are very similar to the natural habitat, but they are kept under human protection. That means the care is given by the humans. And that type of conservation, what we call it as an ex situ or off-site conservation, and that is desirable approach in this case. If you find some of the species are endangered, are coming close, that are placed already in the endangered list, that are present already in the threatened list, and soon they are going to shift to the red list. That means extinction. So in that condition, a special care is needed, and that type of approach is called as ex situ conservation. Whereas in in-situ conservation, we protect the entire ecosystem to protect as one species. Altogether, we are protecting. Here, a special care is given to the species which are near to extinction, right? Now, in-situ conservation faced with a conflict, incompatibility, difference in opinion, conflict between development and conservation. Definitely, if the development is going to increase, conservation is going to decrease. That means we develop, urbanization happens where we cut down the trees. Cut down the trees, lost the biodiversity. That means decrease in conservation. We cut down the trees for the road construction or the airports or the infrastructure development. Nothing but we can say urbanization. As a need of the humans, urbanization is being on increasing. There is a decrease in the biodiversity. That means there is a loss in the biodiversity. There is a decrease in the conservation. Always, if the development is on the highest pace, on the highest speed, then it is definitely going to show its effect towards the loss of the biodiversity, towards the decrease in the conservation. Here, many nations find it unrealistic and economically not feasible to conserve all their biological wealth, because we are having very limited conservation resources. We need the resources for conservation too, right? All of a sudden, we can't protect the entire forest. We need conservation resources for that too. So here, invariably, the number of the species waiting to be saved from extinction, there are so many numbers which are very close to the extinction. That means all the species will come in the list of endangered list, will comes in the threatened list. And we have very less conservation resources to protect, to save all the species which are waiting to be, which are very close to the extinction and waiting to be saved. So here, invariably, the number of the species waiting to be saved from the extinction far exceeds, very far exceeds the conservation resources that are available. So practically, it is unrealistic, and as well as it is economically not feasible. So here, therefore, on a global basis, this problem has been addressed by eminent, famous, respectable, eminent conservationists. They identified the maximum protection. They have identified certain important hotspots, what we call it as a biodiversity hotspot regions, where on what basis we have identified these biodiversity hotspots. So we have identified this biodiversity hotspots where these are the regions with very high levels of species richness. So hotspots have very high level of species richness. That means more biodiversity. These are the reasons which shows more biodiversity, more number of species, more diversification happens in this particular regions. So it will show very high levels of species richness and high degree of endemism, endemic species, high degree of the presence of endemic species. Endemic species means what? Those species which conforms to certain regions and cannot found anywhere else. They are particularly available in that particular section of habitat. We can't find them anywhere else in the world. So that type of species, we call it as an endemic species. So we select this biodiversity hotspots. We select these hotspots by keeping the criteria, finding it, the reasons which are showing a very high species biodiversity, that means species richness, and very high endemic species availability. Based on this, we have identified hotspots and we are conserving these hotspots. Initially, 25. These numericals are important. Initially, 25 biodiversity hotspots were identified, but subsequently 9 more have been added to the list. So, plus 9, 34 in total. So, this is important. Bringing the total number of the biodiversity hotspots in the world. Now, it is 34. This numerical is important. Totally, we have 34 biodiversity hotspots that are available in worldwide. These hotspots are also regions of accelerated habitat loss. So these are the hotspots where we can find a much more species biodiversity, one thing. And we can also find the species which are endemic, which are showing endemism. That means endemic species availability. Hotspots are identified based upon criteria like which are showing very high species richness, one thing, and which are showing endemic species existence, endemic species availability. And these are the places that we call it as regions where there is an accelerated, that means increase in habitat loss. Therefore, it has to be conserved with a care, and that care has been taken care of by identifying them as the biodiversity hotspots. Now, total number is 34 out of that. 3 of these hotspots that we find, Western Ghats and Sri Lanka, Indo-Burma, Himalaya, covers our countries like where the highest availability of species richness and endemic species availability. Countries exceptionally high biodiversity regions, that means species richness is present and species endemism we can see. And moreover, these are the reasons for showing the accelerated habitat loss. Now, among all the biodiversity hotspots put together, it covers less than, it is very, very interesting here. All this biodiversity hotspots covers very less percentage of the total land available, that is 2% of the Earth's land area. But importance is here, the number of the species they collectively harbor, means give shelter. It contains, it is providing a shelter place is extremely high. Though the area by area, the percentage of the area is less, but it is harboring, it is giving a place, it is giving a shelter for extremely high, and strict protection of these hotspots could reduce the ongoing mass extinctions. See, we already discussed 5 episodes of mass extinctions have already happened before the man comes into the scene. And now presently we are at 6th episode, 6th extinction, right? And the rate at which the 6th extinction is happening, we can reduce it by 30%. the rate, we can reduce it by 30% if you conserve this hotspots. Though it covers very less percentage, that is 2% of the total Earth's land area, if we protect these hotspots, we are going to reduce the ongoing mass extinction by almost 30%, right? In India, ecologically unique and biodiversity rich regions are legally protected as biosphere reserves, natural parks, and sanctuaries. This numerical is again important. India now has 14 biosphere reserves, 90 natural parks, and 448 wildlife sanctuaries, bird sanctuaries, tiger sanctuaries. So the numericals are important. These are all the list of the biosphere reserves, natural parks, and sanctuaries that has been maintained in our India. India has also a history of religious, cultural traditions that increases the importance, emphasizes protection of nature. We'll offer prayers for the trees, right? There are so many trees which we treat as a representative of the God power, like neem trees, like tulsi. There's so many. All this are set by our elder generation, thereby having an intention of protecting the nature, protecting the trees. Here, in many cultures, tracts of forest were set aside and all the trees and wildlife within were venerated, respected. Utmost respect has been given and given total protection. They'll treat them as sacred places, thereby protecting them. The final soul to protect them by treating them as a sacred places, sacred things. So here, such sacred group of trees are found in Khasi, Jaintia Hills in Meghalaya, Aravalli Hills of Rajasthan, Western Ghat regions of Karnataka and Maharashtra, and the Sarguja, Chenda, Pasture regions of Madhya Pradesh. These are all the places where we can see the protection of the nature by treating them as a sacred groups. In Meghalaya, the sacred group of trees are the last refuge areas, place where we provide the safety shelter for a large number of rare and threatened plants, right? Now, in this approach, threatened animals as well as threatened plants, that means endangered species or the endangered plants, endangered animals, which are very close to extinction, right, are taken out from their natural habitat and placed in special settings. They can be protected and given special care. They have taken from the natural habitat and they are providing an artificial habitat with the special settings as well as with the special care to protect them, to conserve them, and to provide in a good order to the next generation. Now, geological parks, botanical gardens, wildlife safari parks serve this purpose, because all this will give the artificial habitats which is having a similar to the whatever the facilities that these animals or these plants were getting in their previous habitats, right? There are many animals that have become extinct in the wild, that means forest. In forest, we can't see these plant varieties, animal varieties, but continue to be maintained in the geological parks, right? And in recent years, this all comes under the In-situ conservation. Ex situ conservation is where we are taking that particular plant or we are taking that particular animal from its natural habitat and it is transferred to another habitat which is taken care of the humankind and which is given a special settings. That means all the facilities that has been that particular animal, what it is getting in its previous habitat is also provided here. But the special care is also taken here to make it into comes to the existence from extinction stage, because all the species has been selected, those species which are very close to extinction, which are endangered, which are threatened. Now, in recent years, ex situ conservation has advanced beyond keeping the threatened species in closure. It comes to beyond where the approaches has been adapted in such a way that it is going to preserve the gametes, it is going to preserve the eggs of the extinction species, of the endangered species, such that it can be preserved, it can be conserved to the next generation also. Here, that means what beyond the measures that has been taken by this ex situ conservation. For that, the example is now gametes, female, male gametes of threatened species, plants or animals can be preserved in viable, that means active condition and fertile condition for longer periods, for long periods under cryopreservation. We already know cryopreservation, what it means. It is storing, preserving at minus 190 degrees centigrades, minus 196 degrees centigrades using liquid nitrogen. Using liquid nitrogen. This is what all about cryopreservation. By using cryopreservation, we can preserve gametes, we can preserve seeds, we can preserve eggs, and we can even maintain seed banks. Let's understand. So eggs can be fertilized in vitro in laboratory conditions, and plants can be propagated using plant tissue culture. Well, we are discussing about the plant tissue culture, where any explant we are preserving, we are using any explant. It may be small part from the leaf or the root or stem or meristem or cambium or embryogenesis, right? We have come across all this type of the tissue cultures. Embryos tissue culture, meristem tissue culture, right? So here, all the thing is, once somatic cells can also be used. Small explant where it is placed to produce a group of cells, and that group of cells, what we call it as an undifferentiated mass of cells called as callus. From this callus, we can produce new plantlets. That is what we call it as a propagation, micropropagation, propagation by using the plant tissue culture. And also, seeds of different genetic strains of commercially important plants can also be preserved by keeping them in banks, and that are called as seed banks for longer period of durations. Now, biodiversity knows no political boundaries. It is a responsibility of each and every citizen, and its conservation is therefore a collective responsibility of all the nations. The historic conventions of biological diversity, the Earth's summit, means meeting, conference, we can say meetings, held in the place that is Rio de Janeiro in 1992, they called upon all the nations to take the appropriate measures for conservation of biodiversity, to reduce the loss that is happening to the biodiversity and to increase the sustainable utilization of for its benefits. Both are needed. We have to use it. We have to use and we have to get it, get the ecological services, ecological, economical benefits. At the same time, have to conserve it back. Now, in a follow-up, the World Summit on Sustainable Development held in 2002 in Johannesburg, South Africa, 190 countries pledged their commitment to achieve by 2010, a significant reduction in the current rate. We can reduce the rate. We can't conserve completely. It is completely impossible. We can reduce the speed at which the loss is happening to the biodiversity. That is what we can reduce the current rate of biodiversity loss that is happening globally, regionally, and locally. Local levels, at all the levels. So this meeting and the place where it happens, this summits are important to remember, right? Now, yeah, this is all about the present session where we have discussed about the in-situ conservation and ex-situ conservation, and we have discussed about how to prevent the loss that is happening to the biodiversity, why we should conserve and how we should conserve. So by this, we have come to the end of the chapter called Biodiversity and Conservation. In the next session, let's move to the next chapter. Until then, keep learning with vlearning. Thank you.